Welcome to our weekly question and answer with Tustin Longevity Center. We're an integrative medical office in Orange County, California. And every week here at 9:45 a.m. Pacific time, we make this time available to not just our patients, but friends and family to ask one of our doctors questions about health. We've been talking a lot about the coronavirus, COVID-19, but really any health questions are fair game. We'll do our best to answer those questions as they come in. And the way you want to do that is off to the side here where you see the chat. You can ask your questions in the chat section. We're monitoring those questions and I will ask those questions to the doctor. If you're watching this video after it's been live, you can post comments and questions below underneath. We do monitor those as well too if you weren't able to tune in live with us. So without any further ado, we'll jump right in. My name is Talon Ellithorpe. I'm the practice manager here at Tustin Longevity Center, and I'm joined by our founder and medical director, Dr. Rita Ellithorpe. So thanks for joining us today. We look forward to your questions. Doctor, we're already getting a couple questions in. Should we jump into those?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, when we answer questions like this, we're not proposing to do medicine over the videos. This is generalized responses, okay?
Right. We do offer visits here if you're local. We also offer telehealth visits if you want to ask specific medical questions for a doctor. But this is to be used as just general advice, not specific medical advice. Okay, first question of the day is from Emmanuel. Emmanuel asks, good morning. Is it possible to experience withdrawals while switching to a low-carb diet like the one that you suggest?
Yes, absolutely. They call that the keto flu. The keto flu represents the literal withdrawal symptoms you get from leaving a world of the American standard high carb, high sugar, high fruit corn syrup contamination of the entire food process. And this is in restaurant foods, this is in salad dressings, this is in your sodas, your juices, and all these things. Your body develops a resistance to the insulin hormone that is called up when you take in starches and carbohydrates and fruit sugars and high fructose corn syrup containing processed foods. And your body sees so much insulin ramming the cell membrane, trying to get it to take in the sugar, that the metabolism is overwhelmed and you produce a lot of free radical stress. You damage the lining of your cells and the lining of your blood vessels with this constantly going on. When you suddenly stop, the insulin is still there, expecting any minute for you to dump a load of starch or carbs or sugar or high fructose corn syrup. And that insulin is expecting the sugar, and if it doesn't come, then you feel this lower blood sugar, the blues, the hunger, the fatigue. Normally I find this resolves in a man after about a day and a half, around 36 hours, okay? For a woman, since we have less muscle mass to burn, it takes us a little over 2 days to get through what we call the keto blues. But what this is it's retraining your insulin production to not be as hypersensitive and reactive to what you eat. And so, yes, you'll get through it, and it is literally a withdrawal like any other withdrawal.
Thanks for that, doctor. Next question, actually there's a question before that I missed here. Frank asks, good morning, what do you recommend to a 12-year-old boy who's having trouble sleeping?
Playing, a lot of playtime, a lot of exercise, running and jumping, a lot of water, a lot of activities. Get them outside, get them away from visual blue lights on the screens so much, and plenty of hydration.
Would you recommend a time of the day that they turn off screens and they're not watching screens anymore?
Yeah, I would definitely say you need to get all your screen time ended by 7 o'clock at night.
How about when it comes to their last meal of the day, how far ahead before they go to bed should they finish eating?
3 hours. And all children should be heading to bed around 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. That's when the geomagnetic energies of the sun talk to the pineal gland to help the pineal gland secrete melatonin to enhance this sleepiness. So these screens are upsetting the sleep cycle, the blue lights, a specific wavelength gets to your eyes and makes you think you should be awake for many more hours. Another thing is a lot of these kids are drinking caffeinated beverages, power beverages and stuff. You need to check that out and make sure that that's not in their diet.
And certainly, I have young kids too. I see all their friends drinking sugary drinks, juices.
Yeah,
which
that'll
a lot of parents-
rev them up too.
Right.
So your dinner should not have a high carb feature to it.
And even for adults, we don't like adults eating too close to the time they go to lay down to bed, because we don't want the body in the process of digesting food. And certainly there's other complications like acid reflux if you eat and then lie down within an hour.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good question, Frank. Thank you for that. Another question: does enhanced chelation IV therapy help with lower back injury with scar tissue and pain?
EDTA chelation is an amino acid that is made that it grabs onto like a claw: lead, aluminum, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and various heavy metal cations that have a positive charge. These cations destroy and irritate, scratch the inner lining of the endothelial membranes, not only of your big aorta and blood vessels, but all the tiny little vessels. When you get past the age of 40, your body starts to age and demineralize, and the storage site for decades worth of heavy metal exposure that we're getting from the air we breathe, the food we eat, it can't be eliminated because it's everywhere, builds up in our bones, and you become your own source of intoxication of these heavy metals as they leach out of your body. And this has been well studied in the normative aging studies. This is linked exclusively, or not exclusively, it is linked absolutely with all cause of death and mortality and illness. Now, if your back is strained and you have little micro tears, you need the capillaries there to help bring nutrition and repair and remove debris. So yes, EDTA chelation enhances the microcirculation from your brain to your toe. So absolutely it will benefit your whole body, yes.
Okay. And the same with scar tissue and pain?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Debbie asks, what are the best ways to prepare for an angiogram procedure?
An angiogram procedure is where they either go through your femoral artery or brachial artery to get into your coronary arteries to look for blockages in your heart. That's a risky procedure. It does have risks involved with it, and being well hydrated, having plenty of water. Remember, sugar irritates the endothelial lining, promoting microclots, and we'll talk about that a little more later. So you want to be on a low-carb diet. Many of my patients take enzymes for back pain. I take enzymes every morning of my life to stay loose and goosey as I face 67 years old here pretty soon. And you don't want to take enzymes about 2-3 days before an angiogram, because that is a blood thinner. I don't think you want to take aspirins either, or any other blood thinners. Now, talk to your personal cardiologist about their requirements. Some people are so prone to blood clots they have to be on something. So I would be fasted. How long? I would fast for 18 to 24 hours. I would drink tons of water, and I would be very low carb beforehand. And I would take a lot of extra magnesium to help relax your smooth muscles.
Anything in particular post-procedure that you'd recommend for recovery?
Well, resume all your natural, plenty of water, and then take the enzymes, because that is a little bit of trauma, and that will promote blood clots itself, just the procedure alone. So I would take my enzymes right afterwards.
Does an angiogram consist of any dyes like you'd see in an MRI that we want to detoxify from?
The answer is yes, and then you would come for chelation, and we would detox you from these heavy metal dyes.
Okay. Good question, Debbie. All right, we have another one from Kay. Good morning. What are your thoughts on butyrate for gut health?
Butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid, and this short-chain fatty acid is produced in your digestion, but it diminishes with aging. Hydroxybutyrate is a fatty acid that helps surround your DNA, and this is very protective of your DNA from damage. So as we age and we digest less well, of course I take digestive enzymes and probiotics to keep my gut younger, then I produce a lot of butyric acid. butyric acid that has been researched in helping with cancer disease management for its benefit on protecting the DNA of your cells. So there's many benefits to it. I'm all for it. And just eat your food and take your digestive enzymes. You can go to pharmacists and get a butyric acid enema, especially if you have colorectal cancer. I don't know that that's worth it. I think the healthy diet and the probiotics and the enzymes do just as well. And over the many decades I've been practicing nutritional therapy to help my oncological patients, I've never really resorted to a butyrate enema.
Okay. Thanks for that question, Debbie. And in the, I just want to say as well too, actually that question was from Kay, my apologies. If you're finding this content valuable, if you like this format, this question and answer, let us know, give us some feedback either in the comment section or in the chat section. Like the video, that helps us know that we're getting traction with the audience out there, and share this with your friends and family if you think that they would benefit from this time to be able to ask questions and answers. So you can subscribe to our channel and like the videos, that'd be a big help.
The earlier question by Debbie on how do you prepare for an angiogram to go and look at your coronary artery vessels, I would say maybe a better study, or at least a competitive study of interest, not to tell you not to do the angiogram, but coronary artery calcium scores seem to be much more predictive of the cardiovascular disease extent that you might be suffering. So I would get a coronary artery calcium CT of your chest to look for calcifications of your coronary arteries. And again, my gardeners out there and gardening when I walked out my house door, and then the gardeners are all out here, so I had a big whiff of cut grass, and so I'm all tearing up this morning. Sorry.
Of course, Wednesdays are the days that we do this, and it's also the days that
we need to change the days.
All right, we have another question from Emmanuel. Is it possible to have a high metabolism? Would you just speak a bit about metabolism?
Yes, it is possible to have a high metabolism. In general, we tend to see your blood type correlate with your body metabolism. O and A type blood has a higher metabolism in general than the B type blood people. I'm B positive. But my son Talon is B positive, and you look trim. And so hormones have an effect and aging on it. So your metabolism is a function of many, many factors, some of which is your thyroid function, which tends to diminish with age, along with a iodine deficiency in the United States. About 96.7% of all my patients are iodine deficient, which will help the metabolism. Having insulin resistance or metabolic syndrome is a huge phenomena in the United States culture from all the damage of the high carbs, and this creates resistance to the burning of glucose intracellularly and other fatty acids. High fructose corn syrup is almost ubiquitous in all of our products. I would say 80+% of all processed foods have high fructose corn syrup. And that, just like alcohol, is exclusively metabolized in your liver. And that will put a huge dampening on your metabolic function. So men who go out and party and have beers and alcohol and think it's masculine, it's one of the most unmasculine things they can do for their metabolism, as well as allowing estradiol, that all men make a little bit of, become more dominant in their body, because the body perceives the high fructose corn syrup danger and the alcohol, ethanol, more dangerous than the estradiol alcohol metabolism. So eating late at night will lower your metabolism. Getting an adequate sleep at night will, if you're not doing it, will ruin your metabolism. Chronic stress, either social, emotional, will destroy your metabolism through the adrenal cortisol axis. So that's a vast, vast topic.
It's a huge subject, and it's also a really exciting subject as we're learning about things like epigenetics and switches that we can turn on and turn off and influence with our diet and lifestyle, correct?
Right. So Grandma was right all along. God and Grandma were always right.
Yeah. And I think just to throw into that, another way that we can influence our metabolism, obviously, is to increase our lean body mass and decrease our fat mass via exercise. Specifically, there's types of trainings you can do, like high intensity training, resistance training, because the more muscle we have, the sort of more engines and cellular ability we have to burn calories than if you're not exercising.
Exercising enhances your circulation, and it is very beneficial. I'm not against exercise at all, although I hate to exercise. What I will tell you though is it is the type of calories you're eating in your metabolism, and it is the carbohydrates that's creating the havoc. So if you want to have a better metabolism, you have to first stop the metabolic syndrome of insulin resistance. Otherwise, your cells are just going to go, I don't want any more sugar, don't send it, and then you'll have a poor metabolism.
All right, great question there, Emmanuel. Thank you for that. Got a question from Henry. Is vitamin K2 MENA Q7 plus vitamin D3 useful for resolving atherosclerosis?
That's what the studies are suggesting. The metabolism of calcium supplementation I've never done, even in the 90s when osteoporosis and the normative aging study was finding all the heavy metals coming out of the bones. The suggestion of using calcium back in the 90s, I remember the recommended dosing then was like 250 to 500 milligrams a day, then it went to 750, then to 1,000, then to 1,500. It never made a lick of difference in the osteoporosis. And what we found was that calcium supplementation was depositing in the soft tissues, like around your knee, your joints, your arteries, the carotid arteries. And this abnormal calcium deposit is a feature of oxidative stress, free radical damage of aging and life, and heavy metals and bacteria and stuff. And so these calcium deposits are part of the scarring or fibrinogen healing inflammatory response, which you need a little bit of to heal. But if it's constant, you start getting these plaques laying down. Well, what we found out was the vitamin K7 and MK7 is part of a sequencing working with vitamin D in hormone regulation of calcium metabolism, and it can actually lift these abnormal deposits away. We need more studies on this. If you look up anything about coronary artery calcium score on YouTube by Ivor Cumin, Cummin, first name is Ivor, Ivor, you'll find that is very well studied. I don't know if it's popularly received by the medical practicing community in standard care. There's also a Dr. Williams in Madison, Wisconsin, I believe he is, or Beloit, Wisconsin, and he has a video out there called the Super Vitamin K, and you'll see his lecture on it, and he quotes a lot of the current research on calcium dissolving with MK7. Okay. And I take it every day for that very reason.
And most of our patients, and they're taking the vitamin K2 and vitamin D as well.
Right, I put it in all of our Ds. I do have one product that's just vitamin D3, but I put it there for you. Now remember, that's in dark leafy green vegetables, and that's in the early creams when a cow chews the cud and eats all that new early moss and the chlorophyll and all the 7 chambers of digestion in the cow. It makes the vitamin K7, and then the milking and the cheese from the cow, these early creams are given to young people for fertility. These are usually reserved as a special treat, the first cream of the year for fertility for men and women.
Okay. And short answer to Henry's question, vitamin K2 and vitamin D can be helpful, it appears, for atherosclerosis.
Yes, very, very likely.
All right, thanks for that question. Got one from Trevor, sort of a tag on to a question we had earlier about helping kids relax before bed. He said, can you give magnesium supplements to kids to help them relax before bed,
Yes.
like it with adults?
Yes, absolutely. Magnesium is the #1 mineral in the United States that's uniformly deficient. And I would certainly say that that would be very safe to give to children. Now, any child who is about 80 or 90 pounds, I treat as an adult. So if your 12-year-old is close to that, and they probably are, especially unfortunately in America today, you can give them adult dosings of magnesium. And
I find magnesium very helpful. I always have some powdered magnesium on hand if I'm having trouble sleeping, to mix that in with some water and drink. That's just a good muscle relaxer. Seems very calming.
Mhm.
Okay, good question, Trevor. Next question is from Deborah. How is using cholesterol-lowering drugs detrimental, or is it? Huge subject.
That's a hot topic for the last few minutes,
Yeah.
Deborah. In general, cholesterol lowering.
Cholesterol's gotten a bad rap, right?
Yes.
And we're very pro-cholesterol here.
Yes.
It's been sort of targeted as the bad guy associated with things like heart disease, but we think it's more the sugar that's the problem, not the cholesterol.
Well, it interrupts an enzyme called coenzyme reductase, and by inhibiting that enzyme, all the downriver products that are beneficial in cholesterol metabolism, cell membrane repair, hormone production are ruined. Now, given that, can we do other things without giving a statin? And the answer is yes. There's many other dietary and nutritional therapies that you can do. Does cholesterol reduce oxidized LDL by just decreasing the amount? Yes, there's articles on that, but there's now a lot of controversy on that. I would go to Ivor Kuman again and look up the YouTube called The Cholesterol Conundrum. Ivor Kuman on the cholesterol conundrum. LDL cholesterol is almost meaningless. I think any doctor of today will say that what they call the bad cholesterol is a meaningless indicator. It's oxidized cholesterol, and that's rarely ordered by your physician. More meaningful is your fasting blood glucose, which the people allow to be too high on the standards, which is just surveys. We don't want anyone's fasting blood sugar above 85 and call them normal. They're not.
How about triglycerides?
Triglycerides are another high indicator of cardiovascular disease. Your insulin fasting is another indicator. Your hemoglobin A1C, which is the amount of sugar sticking to your cells. Your HSCRP. I mean, there's many other cardiovascular indicators that are far more predictive of cardiovascular insults than just a total cholesterol or an LDL cholesterol. The ratio between the HDL to triglycerides should be 1 or less. So if your HDL is 50 and your triglycerides are 50, which is our goal here, then your ratio is 1. Now, if your triglycerides after eating those French fries and drinking that Coca-Cola with your hamburger goes up to, 180 or 200, and you're doing that every day, and you come fasting 12 hours and it's at 150, your doctor is going to say you're still normal in most medical clinics. But that's a risk ratio of 3. So we have to start integrating more demand by the public for their physicians to be informed about nutritional, lifestyle, preventive medicine research. This is a must, and only you, the patient, can demand that, and that's what we've been trying to provide for the last 40 years here.
Okay, with about 5 minutes left, I've got another question here. I've been taking TLC K-Force, but my back surgeon for neuropathy, nerve root affected, said to take vitamin D2, not D3. Confused? What's the difference?
Well, D2 and D3 are in the process of metabolic conversion in your body. The active form is vitamin D3. So I disagree with them.
Okay, simple answer. And another question that I actually saw last week in the comments was, What do you think about chlorine dioxide? Do you recommend its usage for prevention of COVID-19? Chlorine
dioxide is a item I know you can get over the counter. I don't think it's easy to get over the counter, and yes, it has been used as alternative supportive therapies to oncological standard of care management of cancer patients. It has shown in animal studies, and there are some anecdotal human studies of its benefit as an anti-cancer treatment. Chlorine dioxide is just, that's where you get all the stories about mothers giving their children bleach, it's basically bleach in a sense. And so this is a powerful antioxidant and may be helpful in very oxidatively stressed people, and that's why a lot of mothers with autistic children have read about it and learned about it. I find that its use is not that prevalent, and the data is not as voluminous as taking vitamin C, taking all the research. I think there's 40 plus studies on Juice Plus, taking a very good multivitamin that has vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin D, vitamin K, your fat-soluble vitamins, getting a low-carb diet back going, drinking your water, getting a good night's sleep, exercising, taking enzymes. And so if you look at that body and our success compared to does chlorine dioxide have some miracle impact, I'm going to say no, it doesn't. Not compared to what the tried and true I've seen over 40 years. I'm not against it, but I don't think it's needed.
Okay, great answer. We're getting some more just comments in there. No questions at the moment. Doctor, is there anything that you wanted to touch on, news or current events? We have 2-3 minutes left.
I always do research, and I have an article I think that'll be very interesting. This is put out by Science Magazine for May 14th, 2020. And they found that T cells, part of your immune system, you have a innate, which is your on all the time ready immune system for anything. And then you have your adaptive. T cells are in the adaptive side, which means if you've been exposed to measles, your innate system handled it as a kid. But now your adult T cells have the memory of it in the adaptive, so if they ever see it, then they can respond. So T cells are in the adaptive side of your arm primarily, although there is biochemical research looking at the interaction. T cells found in COVID-19 patients bode well for long-term immunity. So we're encouraged about this fact, and I want to read to you what they said. 2 studies reveal infected people harbor T cells that target the virus and may help them recover. They found some people never infected with SARS-CoV-2 have these cellular defenses, most likely because they were previously infected with other coronaviruses, because the common cold can have a type of coronavirus. So this is encouraging data, says virologist Angela Rasmussen of Columbia University, who identified both strong T cell responses to it, and which bodes well for the development of long-term protective immunity. And there's much more in that. Maybe you can put a link to this at the end of here. And then there's another article put out by the Washington Post, and this was published May 21st, 2020. They're discussing an article by the New England Journal of Medicine. In it, it says there's more evidence that emerges on why COVID-19 is so much worse than the flu. And here they say these people, separate from influenza deaths or pneumonia deaths or other influenza-like illnesses, COVID-19 has something unique. These people suffered many microscopic blood clots, which appeared to respond to the attack by growing tiny new blood vessels. So in other words, they had microclots that the other type of illnesses and deaths and autopsies did not show. And these microclots are why they're so oxygen starved without having the stiff lung damage. This is a feature of those capillaries. That's why I say EDTA chelation has to be a part of all critical care management because it's a natural anticoagulant. Enzyme therapy needs to be a part of it as well. And also, they found that they're so hypoxic even in those weeks that you start trying to grow new little blood vessels. And I just thought that was validating chelation. So the lungs from patients in the New England Journal of Medicine, and this was published May 26, just a few days ago, the lungs from patients with COVID-19 also showed distinctive vascular features consisting of severe endothelial injury associated with the presence of intracellular virus and disrupted cell membranes. Histologic analysis of the pulmonary vessels in patients with COVID-19 showed widespread thrombosis and microangiopathy. So that's why you need to drink your water, stop your high blood sugars, because high blood sugar is associated with promoting microclots and triggering von Willebrands, and fibrin formation and microclots. That's why chelation is so important. I had articles on vitamin D and the benefit of it having an impact on the COVID-19. I had an article from Ireland on the benefit of vitamin D because they're in northern latitudes. Interestingly, Finland requires dosing of vitamin D in their foodstuffs. Plus, they do all the saunas, which helps with the heat and moisture, and they had one of the lower COVID-19 responses, and so forth. Interestingly, there is an article of this young doctor who, this young doctor's mother had COVID-19, and this young medical student actually gave his mother some nutraceuticals, and we compliment him. I'd like to invite him when he's got his degree and come here. It was glutathione, and L-glutathione helps break up fibrin clots, improves breathing, and is a powerful liver antioxidant. And its precursor is N-acetylcysteine. It takes a couple of these to make one glutathione. This is easier to absorb through the gut. And he also talks about giving IV glutathione infusions greatly and helped the patients with these breathing problems even within the first 30 minutes.
Real quick, just a great question from Trevor, because you mentioned the importance of your T cell function. He asked if you have a quick answer on how you could improve T cell function.
Take vitamin D.
Yeah.
Take vitamin D to improve your T cell function. And I love my orthomolecular products. Orthomolecular, they literally had a picture of what he gave his mother, which is the glutathione, and that's what we have here as well. So I'm glad to see that natural supportive preventive care is integrating with standard of care. I'm a general practitioner. I don't purport to be a specialist in oncology or pulmonology or cardiology or orthopedics or neurology or dermatology, but I'm a generalist of all. And so for the most part, the vast majority of people should be managed at home preventatively, not needing such a high, heavy burden of these specialists, and their care and hospitalizations. So that's why we encourage these medical students to come out here and shadow us and learn these things.
Well, I hope there's a lot of information. I hope it was helpful. I hope you learned something today. We talked a lot. We learned some about metabolism. We learned about immune function and how to support the immune function. And I did see a lot of you thanking us for that information in the comment section. Do us a favor and like the video or subscribe to the channel and spread the word. Tell your friends and family about this. If this is connecting with you guys and you're finding value on it, we'll find ways to continue to do this and even possibly expand this. So, Dr. Althorp, I want to thank you for your time today and just your wealth of knowledge and information that you've shared with us. Guys, we look forward to seeing you every week here at 9:45 a.m. Pacific time live. And of course, you can go back and watch these videos after they've been live and then post your questions in the comment section below, and we'll try to bring those questions into the next video. So thanks. We look forward to seeing you next week at 9:45 a.m. Pacific.
Excellent.